Welcome back, episode 11 of Unwatchable, Loyal Losers Podcast. Today we are discussing the New York Mets series wrap, which concludes with the Pirates, Cardinals, and San Francisco Giants. The New York Mets sit at 6-4, second place in the NL East, just below the Miami Marlins, who are surprisingly off to a hot start. Congratulations, Miami, the team that knocked the New York Mets out again, but whatever, we don't got to talk about that. So let's just dive right into it. The New York Mets took on 3 games with the Pittsburgh Pirates at Citi Field for the first series of opening week, in which they won the series. They took the series 2-1, in which we saw the New York Mets completely light up Paul Skeens in game 1, knocking him out in the first inning, putting up 5 runs against them, which was honestly, I gotta be honest with you guys for a minute, seeing Freddie Peralta and Paul Skeens face off, I was worried that the Mets were not going to touch Paul Skeens. I actually was really worried. I was like, all right, Mets are not going to touch Paul Skeens. He's going to go 5 scoreless. The Mets just will not touch him. And oh my God, I was wrong. So the Mets got off to a shaky start in the first inning. Freddie Peralta gives it the 2-run home run to Ryan O'Hearn, which Ryan O'Hearn always seems to do the Mets dirty in this, at least in this series. He really did the Mets dirty, which is crazy. But hey, Ryan O'Hearn, whatever. So Freddie Peralta gives it the 2-run home run to Ryan O'Hearn. They take a 2-0 lead, which takes us to the bottom of the first, in which the New York Mets put up 5 runs on Paul Skeens. They knock him out in the first inning. He had Livy Dunn on his mind too much, but I saw Livy Dunn in the New York Mets dugout, so I don't know. Maybe Paul Skeens was just worried. Well, she was definitely in the dugout afterwards, so sorry about that, Paul. And we also saw Carson Bench hit his first home run and get his first career RBI. Congratulations, Carson, who actually, I was worried about him coming up to the big leagues. He's actually a solid player. I will take him. I will take him over Cedric Mullins, that's for sure, and Jose Siri. But all jokes aside, really good player. Really, really good player. Most notably, I actually skipped this one, so my apologies. Most notably, Brett Baty, 3-run RBI triple off of Skeens, which I don't know what O'Neal Cruz is doing in center field. Why'd they move him to center field? I mean, that was just terrible. And it was a terrible game for him. It was actually a rough series for O'Neal Cruz. So 3-run triple. Beautiful. Love it. It was amazing. Francisco Alvarez also hit a moonshot to left center field. That was a beautiful sighting. Unreal. I was not at any of these games, by the way. I wanted to go to opening week. Was unable to go because I was stuck at work. But hey, got plenty of other games to go to, and hopefully the Mets don't choke. So Mets take game 1 of the series, which brings us to game 2. Oh, and Freddie Peralta got the win, by the way. I apologize for that. David Peterson started on game 2, and this was actually a pitcher's duel for most of the game. Peterson with 6 innings. 7th inning with 2 on and nobody out. Baty, Semien, and Benj all go down swinging when the Mets had 2 on and nobody out, which led to 0 runs coming across. It was a very, very, very rough game for the Mets with runners on base the whole game. It was a pitcher's duel, like I said, for the first 7 innings. It's actually ridiculous. So we're going to skip to the 9th inning, and we'll talk about what ensured in the 11th inning. So we go to the 9th inning, Devin Williams, who I'm still worried about. But so far, off to a good start. I like it. If he can bounce back to like what he was in Milwaukee, perfect. But I'm still shaky about it. I'm allowed to be shaky about it. He enters the 9th inning. He gives up a double, a single, leaving runners on first and third, but gets out of it with a couple of strikeouts. Perfect. I was worried. I was actually at Patrick's lacrosse game, actually, and I had the game on. I'm listening to it. I'm like, oh, shit. Devin Williams, I'm like, this game's over. But he gets out of it. I'm like, oh, my God. I was jumping in the stands like a maniac. But, hey, they got out of it. Beautiful. Love it. As my phone is getting blown up, we're going to put that on Do Not Disturb. Fuck you, people. Whew, man. Which brings to the 10th inning. Luis Garcia, he gives up an RBI single, which sucked. The Manfred runner on base rule, I'm not really a huge fan of. I think it's just, they want more offensive baseball, but whatever. Luis Garcia gives us the RBI single, which brings us to the bottom of the 10th with the Mets down 1-0. Mark Vientos gets a base hit, loading the bases for Luis Torrens, the New York Mets Cal Raleigh, was what I like to call him. Luis Torrens ties the game with an RBI single. Unfortunately, the New York Mets were not able to capitalize after that. They saw 2 groundouts by Lindor and Soto, which ended the inning. Which enter the man who should not have a roster spot on the New York Mets, Richard Dick Lovelady. Should not be on this roster. He is a bullpen arm, and he enters in this game. And what does he do? On the first batter, remember, 11th inning, still they got that runner at second base. Gives up on the second pitch an RBI single. And right there, as soon as Dick Lovelady came in the game, I'm like, all right, this game's over. He's not a good pitcher, not a good arm. Thus, it's a 15-run game. He's good. He gives up an RBI single. And right then and there, I'm like, all right, this is the game. That's it. And oh boy, was I wrong, because in the bottom of the 11th inning, Luis Robert Jr. answered the call with a 3-run walk-off bomb. Yes, indeed, the New York Mets take game 2, so they technically have taken the series. It was a 3-game series. They took the series already. So going for the sweep in game number 3, Noah McLean takes the bump, who looks solid. Unfortunately, got off to I shouldn't say a bad start, but he gave up a couple runs. He gave up 2 runs, not bad. Excuse me. Mets would get 2 runs on a Semien sacrifice fly and a Soto RBI single. And then we enter into the 7th inning. Juan Soto with 2 on and 1 out strikes out on a pitch at his eyes. It was just one of those check swings where you were like, what the fuck just happened? It was just, and he ended up falling down, and maybe he just fell down just to be like, all right, umpire, you didn't see that. Let me take my walk. No. The umpire's like, nope, I saw you, Juan. You're out. So Soto strikes out. Oh, man. And then Bo Bichette strikes out on 3 pitches. And then is booed by Met fans, which, oh, man. Met fans were giving it to Bichette. They're still giving it to Bichette, actually. So, for the second consecutive game, in the bottom of the for the second consecutive game, we are off to extra innings. And enter Dick Lovelady again for the second consecutive game. And on the second pitch of the first batter, he gives a RBI single to none other than Ryan O'Hearn again. Like I said, Ryan O'Hearn tortured the Mets this series. The Pirates might not have won a couple games, but hey, he definitely tortured the Mets. So, Ryan O'Hearn singles, Dick Lovelady gets a couple outs, and then on back-to-back 2-out walks, load the bases to Henry Davis, who smacks an RBI single, and just like that, the Mets are down 2. Enter the bottom of the 10th. Alvarez starts on second as the ghost runner, if you want to call it. Lindor works the walk. Juan Soto comes up with nobody out, and he lines a double to the left center field gap. Alvarez scored it for some what other reason, which I am still asking questions to this day. They send Francisco Lindor home, and he's thrown out by 2 feet. And, I can understand wanting to send them, but you gotta, no. Right there, that situation, you're down by 1, you have 2 in scoring position, you could win the game right there. Unfortunately, they sent Lindor home. He gets thrown out. Juan Soto ends up on third base afterwards with 2 out, and Jorge Polanco comes to the plate with 2 outs. And he flies the ball deep to right field. Unfortunately, gets caught on the warning track. And just like that, the Mets game ends, but they took the series out of the Pirates. Not a horrible series, I will say. It was actually a pretty good series for the Mets. We saw, like I said, the offensive explosion of the moonshot Francisco Alvarez hitting Carson Bench. But all in all, the Mets left, in my opinion, and people are going to disagree, Mets, in my opinion, left too many men on base. They should have, honestly, in my opinion, they didn't even deserve to win the second game. But hey, you got out, you won it. Luis Robert Jr., that was a shot and a half. But Dick Lovelady, man, get him off this team. There's still time in the season to DFA him for a 5th time. I mean, what is the obsession with him? I mean, Frank the Tank always says he enters the Pink Pony Club, and that's the obsession. I don't think that's not the obsession, but who knows? Maybe it is. All right, let's jump to the Mets-Cardinals series. In Game 1, Clay Holmes took the bump. And this was another pitcher's duel. It was a 1-1 game going into the 5th inning until Bichette would put the Mets up to make it 2-1. Jared Young would knock in an RBI double to make it 3-1, and then Juan Soto walks on 4 pitches, pushing it to 4-1. Holmes ended up giving a home run. It's whatever. Nobody was on. 4-2 game. And then Devin Williams comes in the 9th inning. And what does he do? He earns his first Mets save. Congratulations, Devin Williams. You did it. And you did it without blowing it. Thank God. There was no flashbacks to 2024 for him, which was good. So the Mets took that series. They got Clay Holmes a W. They got Devin Williams his first save as a New York Met. And all in all, looking pretty good. Game 2, Kodai Senga took them out, and he actually, for the first time coming back, I was worried about him because in the second half of the season, he was just horrible. Ended up getting sent to the minor leagues. Supposed to be the ace of the staff last year. Ended up getting sent to the minor leagues. So Senga comes back, and he actually pitches pretty well. He really surprised me. He pitched pretty well. The bottom of the third inning, Robert misreads a fly ball, then misses the cutoff man on what should have been a single. Turns in, well, it still was a single, but runner advances second. So that puts 2 in scoring position, and Herrera lines a base-clearing double. Oh, man. The pain. The pain. Which sucks. But what are you going to do? And in the 5th inning, Senga would get out of it a second to third with a ground out. Top of the 6th, Soto doubles, Bichette walks. Roberts hits a deep. I thought this one was gone, actually, off his bat. Robert hits a deep sacrifice fly. Juan Soto gets the third. I don't really know if I'm going to call it a sacrifice fly, but it was a productive out. We'll say productive out. Sac fly usually means a runner scores a third. That, of course, did not happen. So, hits a deep productive out ball. It's a fly out. Jared Young comes to the plate with Juan Soto on third base, Bo Bichette on first, and what does he do? He lines out to short, and Bichette is too far off the base, and it ends up being a double play to end the Met threat, and that was just a heartbreaker for me. Not for me. It was a heartbreaker, but it was a heartbreaker probably for most Met fans who were like, fuck. Gotta stay close to the base next time. So we go to the 7th inning and enter Dick Lovelady again. And on the first batter he sees, on the second pitch, he gets rocked for a home run and then a single. Oh, man. Jared Young did make a diving stop at first base, which, the Mets have so many first basemen now. We'll get into it afterwards. They got Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Jorge Polanco, who is playing on a bad Achilles, and they've got Jared Young, who's like the utility guy, I guess. Well, Brett Beatty and Jared Young are utility. Well, I guess you consider Jared Young the outfielder and first baseman. Brett Beatty's your utility guy. But good to know the Mets have options at first base. And then in the 9th inning, the Mets go down 1-2-3. Pretty, just uncompetitive at bats after non-competitive at bats. It was just a wreck. Looking for my water, and I guess I left it in the other room. Oh well, whatever. So the Mets end up falling in Game 2, which leaves the rubber game for Freddie Peralta in Game 3. So I'm pretty sure, as we all know, in the Cardinals Game 3, it was a rough game for the Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor, who's out off to a rough start in the season. And in the first inning, Lindor gets the grounder to him to end the inning. Well, it should have ended the inning, I should say. Instead, Lindor forgets how many outs there are, and he takes the ball to second base and starts running the other way instead of throwing the ball to first base. Francisco, wake the fuck up. So that cost Freddie Peralta 5 extra pitches. And then the Mets would fail to score in the fifth inning. They left men on base again, and this was probably the worst the Mets have with runners in scoring position in this series. That's probably their worst, and we're going to get into the numbers afterwards. So the Mets would score in the 5th inning. Then in the 6th inning, Francisco Lindor reaches on an error. And like I said, it's been a rough start for Lindor, and I said it was a rough game. He forgot how many outs there are. And in this instance, Francisco Lindor gets picked off. Not even trying. He was adjusting the sliding mitt. He took, I don't know what he was doing. He got the lead, still putting on the sliding mitt, and then took like 3 extra steps. And the pitcher was like, and he didn't even like dive to get back. He didn't try to advance to second base. The first baseman ran up to it, and Francisco Lindor was like, put his hand out, and he was like, thank you, first baseman. It was a rough game. But then on the next batter, Juan Soto hits a home run. And oh boy, how this would end up costing the Mets. I'm pretty sure everyone watched the game. You would know it ended up costing the Mets big time. So after that Juan Soto homer, let's go to the bottom of the sixth. Freddie Peralta goes 5 1/3 inning with 7 Ks. Huascar Brazenbaugh enters and gives up a game-tying RBI single. Which, oh well. Kind of knew that was coming when you have runners all over the place in that inning. So, for the third time this season, the New York Mets go to extra innings. Devin Williams would get the outs he needed in the 9th inning. And actually, the Mets failed to score in the top of the 9th inning. Jorge Polanco hit a double, and the Mets could not get the run across. So let's enter the top of the 10th, shall we? Marcus Semien is your ghost runner at second base. Francisco Alvarez is your batter, and Francisco Alvarez hits the ball right back to the pitcher. And Marcus Semien, for whatever reason, I guess he thought he had a chance to get the third, gets in a run. Well, he tried to advance the third, ended up being run down. He ends up getting tagged out. However, he stayed in the rundown long enough. So Francisco Alvarez advances to second base, but now you have an out. And during this, well, actually after this, there was a wild pitch after the catcher for the Cardinals, Pajes. It was a wild pitch. Alvarez was thinking about going to third, did not end up going. So there was no runner at third base, and the Mets ended up getting first and second for Juan Soto. And what happens? He pops out weakly, and the Mets can't score. For a second straight inning, the New York Mets leave a runner in scoring position and cannot get the run in when they needed it the most. Tobias Myers comes in. He throws a scoreless 10th inning. Beautiful. Love it. Actually, really good pickups. He's been really good so far out of the bullpen. Thank God it was not Dick Lovelady. If it was Dick Lovelady, I probably would have taken my TV off the wall and thrown it out the window. But did not happen. So let's go to the top of the 11th. Juan Soto's ghost running at second base. Or Manfred, whatever you want to call it. Bo Bichette ends up advancing Juan Soto on a weird play. He hits a comebacker to the mound that ends up hitting the pitcher in the back of the shoulder. And Mason Wynn ends up bare-handing the ball and throwing it out at first base. Bo Bichette was, I hope he was running 100%. Did not seem like he was running 100%. So after a Jared Young walk, a Luis Robert Jr. walk, Brett Beatty would come to the plate. The Cardinals would end up making a pitching change, bringing the lefty to face Beatty. Unfortunately for Carlos Mendoza, no more players on the bench to use. Or maybe he did. I don't know. Beatty grounds out to second base. They throw to the plate. Soto was tagged out, which was a forced play, but it was an awkward throw. So Beatty cannot get the run in, and Marcus Semien flies out to right center, ending the Met threat. Bases loaded. Can't get the run. For the third straight inning, the New York Mets leave a runner at scoring position and cannot get it in. So in the bottom of the 11th inning, Tomas Myers is still up there. They intentionally walk Herrera to put the double play in order, and the Mets actually end up getting the double play ball they needed. That sets up 2 outs. But unfortunately, Mason Wynn, who was 0 for 10 coming into this series, would do the Mets dirty. He hits a weak little pop-up right over Brett Beatty, and it actually ends up falling between Beatty, Semien, and Carson Bench, who was just out of the range of the ball, cannot get it, falls down. Mason Wynn ends up being 1 for 11 in the series, but ends up being the walk-off winner, and the Redbirds take the win. They take the series win over the Mets, as a matter of fact. And for that, the Mets with runners in scoring position in that series were 1 for 29. And speaking of 1 for 29, Marcus Semien, who was coming into that game, or should I say coming into his final at bat of that game, was 0 for 29. He ended up being 0 for 30. What a rough stretch. And that 1 for 29 with runners in scoring position was good for a 0.34 average and 7 Ks, which I don't know how that's horrible. I mean, I've seen a lot of teams leave runners in scoring position. I mean, my team that I play for, men's league, we leave ton of runners on base, but we're not 0.34 average. That was probably my batting average back in, I don't even know, like 7th grade or something, 6th grade. But you try, you get men on base, and the Mets just couldn't do it. They couldn't pull it out. Like I said, the whole game. If Lindor did not get picked off, what I mentioned before, if Lindor does not get picked off in that 6th inning, adjusting his sliding mid or whatever the fuck he was doing, you probably have a Met win right there. You probably have a Met win because Juan Soto did homer. Now, maybe it does play out differently if he doesn't get picked off for some reason. Maybe Soto grounded to a double play. But he ended up homering, so if it worked out right and he ends up hitting the homer, you got a 2-0 lead. And when Brazenbaum comes in after Peralta gave you 5 1/3, you most likely walk out of St. Louis with another series victory, walking into San Francisco, which I'm so glad the Mets were able to take care of San Francisco. They got me worried in that first game. It was a total mess. But luckily, the Mets were able to take the next 3 games. Yesterday was probably the biggest one. They fought from behind. They came up in the 8th inning. And Luis Torrens, oh man, Luis Torrens. I fucking love Luis Torrens, man. He's like, literally, who needs Cal Raleigh? Like, say, who needs Cal Raleigh when you got fucking Luis Torrens, man? We got Luis Torrens. We're good. We don't need Cal Raleigh, man. Luis Torrens ends up with the go-ahead RBI double, and which gets the Mets the win. They ended up winning 5-2. Devin Williams gets his second save as a Met, and he was fired up afterwards. And actually, I was too. I was going nuts at my aunt's house. It was amazing. Great win by the Mets in that game. Unfortunately, I do not have the notes for that game, but the Mets did end up taking the series 3-1. They have the off day today. They have the travel day. And usually I don't do series wraps, but I had to do an episode until unwatchable before I do the Devils end of series wrap. I mean, man, listen. I know this is a Met video, but man, Devil fans, I don't know where my Devil fans are because I'm in New York. But hey, Devil fans, Tom Fitzgerald finally gone. It feels so fantastic to get that motherfucker out of here. I went crazy. I got out of the shower and I did a video immediately afterwards on Loyal Losers page. It was, feels good to get his ass out of here. And that fat walking shit Sheldon Keefe, he's going to get the fuck out of here too because he's done afterwards too. But how about this? Mark Vientos, who had probably one of the worst spring trainings I think the Mets have ever seen. In 17 plate appearances, Mark Vientos has a 471 batting average, 1 home run, 3 RBIs, and OPS of 1.291. Hey, Mark Vientos, I was skeptical. I don't know what it is. The Mets recently hired JD Martinez as an assistant to something. Is JD Davis like the Mark Vientos whisperer or something? Is he like a ghost whisperer, man? He's like, I don't know, he's giving Mark Vientos like, are you sure they're not like swapping syringes in there? I'm joking. I'm kidding. I don't know, man. Mark Vientos so far in the month of April is turning into Barry fucking Bonds. Thank God, man. This is like Vientos prove it type of year because, it was 23, he was up and down in the minors and the big leagues. 24, he had that insane breakout, which, man, that was good. 25, he fell off the face of the planet and openly got benched at the end of the season, which ended up costing him. And there was rumor around trade talks and then the awful spring training. But so far, Mark Vientos, man, keep it up, man, please. I love it. Maybe get Jorge Polanco the fuck out of here now. I'm not a big fan of Polanco. Sorry. That offends anybody. Don't care. But he did have a double yesterday, so I guess I can't give him too much hate. I just don't like him at first base. I was talking about some with Jared Young during the beginning. I said Jared Young's getting DFA. Keep Jared Young, please. I don't know what it is, but Jared Young yesterday, 3 for 3, man. And actually made a couple of good plays in the outfield too. He caught Encarnacion at second base and made a couple of diving catches. Good for you. You deserve it. Tyrone Taylor too. He even hit a 3-run home run. I remember Frank the Tank afterwards when Soto got injured. We're gonna get to Juan Soto after this before the end of this because I'm running out of time. I got like 3 minutes left. Shit. Yeah, 3 minutes. He said when Soto went injured, we got to watch Tyrone Taylor, who cannot buy a hit at a fucking dollar store. And then the next game, Tyrone Taylor, it's a 3-run pinch hit home run. That was beautiful. I love Tyrone. Who doesn't love Tyrone Taylor? But news on Juan Soto, he's moving to the 10-day IL with I believe it was a right quad. right calf. I apologize. Right calf. Ronnie Mauricio has been recalled from the minor leagues. Hey, listen, Ronnie Mauricio, here's your shot. Show us what you got. There's gonna be so many infielders now. Jesus, I didn't even think about that. There's gonna be a lot of fucking infielders. Maybe he takes Francisco Lindor's spot with the way he's swinging the bat. Or Bo Bichette, the way he's swinging the bat. God, gee, I can't watch Lindor going 0 for 5 anymore. I can't even watch friggin' Bo Bichette going 0 for 4. I mean, Bo Bichette did have he had an all right series in San Francisco. Had a couple of hits. I think he went 3 for 4 in one of the games. I don't have the notes written down with me, but I remember him going 3 for 4. So hopefully he finds it. Marcus Semien had a productive San Francisco series. So hopefully these guys starting to find it. Francisco Lindor, man, you got to find it as well. As I got 2 minutes left. Oh shit. So Ronnie Mauricio, here's your chance to prove it. What is he gonna do? Where is he gonna fill in? I don't know. I think it's one of those where the Mets are just filling that final roster spot because they gotta. I don't know what it was. Somebody was telling me that if the Mets or this is any team, the 26 guys, if you only have 25, there's like a fine in place or something like that. It was a weird thing. I don't know if that's true. If you guys have the answers down in the comment section, are they calling up Ronnie Mauricio for something else? Are they calling him to fill the roster spot? Are they going to give him a chance to play in the infield? I don't know where Ronnie Mauricio is really going to fit in this scenario. Maybe to give Marcus Semien a couple days off, or Brett Beatty or Vientos. I don't know where it fits in. Maybe DH when Polanco's Achilles is bothering him or something. I'm not really sure where Mauricio is going to fit in, but I would like to see that with the Mets' upcoming series. They play the Diamondbacks at Citi Field starting tomorrow. So Pat and I were supposed to do team talk tomorrow. I don't know if Pat's going to be present, but if I am on, which I most likely am, then I will have the Met game. I can't put it in the background. I don't want to copyright it, but there will be a Met game involved. So we'll get a team talk episode while the Mets are playing. Crazy. So, yeah, I got a minute left. Oh, man. So we're going to see what the Mets happen on tomorrow. I believe, Peralta is going tomorrow, so that should be interesting. Guys, thank you for tuning in this episode of Unwatchable. Team Talk will be up tomorrow. Let's fucking go Mets, baby.